and pledge of allegiance. Our Father, who art
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item D on the agenda is approval of minutes from September 18th, 2023 council meeting. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the minutes shall stand approved. Hearing none, they stand approved. Item E is citizen communication. If there's anyone in the audience or on WebEx that would like to address council on anything that is not on the agenda, you can do so by putting your questions in the chat, and we will check that periodically. Item F, reports from council committees. F1, the Finance and Budget Committee met on September 25th, 2023 at 7:30 a.m. and we recommended to council to approve the third quarter budget adjustments. Item F2, the Safety and Human Resource Committee did not meet on September 25th, 2023 due to lack of agenda items. F3, the Technology Committee did not meet on October 2nd, 2023 due to lack of agenda items. Moving on to item H, we have introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. H1 is ordinance number 038-23, an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a water purchase contract between the City of Napoleon, Ohio and the Village of Melinta, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Second.
And suspensions requested on this as well. Okay.
Thank you, Council President. This contract, water contract, approved by Melinta Council and signed by Mayor Badgley 2 weeks ago on the 18th of September. Once again, I used the Florida contract as a baseline. The greatest difference between the Florida contract and the Melinta contract is the term. The Florida contract takes us through 2049, and the Melinta contract possibly could take us to 2049, but it's a 16-year contract with an automatic 10-year extension if they so choose. There's suspension requested just so that we can get this signed and get on to the new rates from Melinta.
Motion for suspension.
Second.
Hey, Marissa, please call the roll on suspension.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay, any questions or comments on the ordinance? Okay, only comment I have is great job, Andy. I know you spent a lot of time on this, meeting with them and explaining things, answering questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on first read under suspension. Item H2, ordinance number 039-23, an ordinance supplementing the annual appropriation measure supplement number 3 for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay, and suspension is requested here as well. Kevin?
Thank you, Council President. These are just the quarterly adjustments to the budget. They have been in your packet. They were discussed by the Finance and Budget Committee. I will field any questions if anyone has anything. Otherwise, we would just, again, ask for suspension just so that we can close out the month or the quarter.
Okay.
And that's the same for this one and the next ordinance.
Thank you.
Motion for suspension.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay, anyone have any questions on the ordinance?
The only thing I would add is on this ordinance, these are an actual budget increase, whereas the next ordinance is where we transfer from a budget line item to one line item. But as a whole, in a budgeting process, this total increase is $353,000. When you're talking about the millions of dollars that we budget, this is not very large for the third quarter.
Okay. Thank you.
But it just proves the point that the budget's a living, breathing thing.
That you're correct.
You know,
and
that's what it points out. and
That's how
yeah.
and I certainly look at it that way. We would certainly prefer that they transfer from one line item to the next, but as is with life, things happen, and we, we try not to over budget, that we do have to do these increases at times. Yes.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on first read under suspension. Item H3, ordinance number 040-23, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to make appropriation transfers of appropriation 3 from one appropriation line item to another appropriation line item pursuant to ORC Section 5705.40 for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, as listed in Exhibit A, and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Kevin?
I have really nothing more to add on this. Again, this is just from one line item to another, which is the preferred method that we would like to see. And again, we're asking for suspension, just so that we could have the month-end quarter closed out properly.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion for suspension, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll on the ordinance.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
The Finance Department, thank you all for doing this.
Okay, that has been passed on first read under suspension. Moving on to item I, second readings of ordinances and resolutions. I-1 is resolution number 034-23, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a donation agreement for the construction of a baseball field and declaring an emergency.
A motion.
Second.
Thank you.
As council president, I usually like to say there are no changes to the legislation, but there are changes to the legislation. So I will ask for an amendment first and foremost this evening. And the changes is name of the nonprofit from which this donation, or to which the donation will go. I can maybe ask Billy to expound on that a little bit, but it's spelled out with a different name in the legislation currently, and we'll have to update that.
There's been some back and forth on exactly which entity will be donating the ball field. And there's been some confusion, I think, on the other end as to how to handle it. I think they finally did get to a point where they are solid on how they want to handle the donation of the ball field. We are asking for an amendment. The legislation currently states that it would come from NM Holdings LLC. We would ask that it be amended to Wildcat Youth 32 Athletics. That's also an LLC, but it's a nonprofit. I'm sorry, it's not an LLC, it's a nonprofit corporation. So we're asking for that amendment to that group, so that the legislation reads that group. And assuming council will change that, then I can have a clean copy of the legislation to you tomorrow. We would further ask, it's my understanding, for suspension in this situation, because I think they're looking to get to work soon.
Yeah, we're really looking for an early spring opening of this ball diamond just before the ball season starts. And in order to accomplish that, we will, excuse me, we'll have to get started, or they will have to get started as soon as possible. So I would ask for suspension on this.
Okay, just to kind of summarize some things, we were eventually going to replace a building that's out there that would cost approximately $100,000, maybe $120,000. This
Correct.
project will take care of that, plus the whole new field, which is estimated at, what, $700,000?
Or more.
Somewhere in that. And the cost from the city will be? what's
Right
in-
now, we're looking at around $75,000.
75. Okay. All right. Sounds like an awesome deal to me.
It sure does.
So to set the charity up, basically, so they can donate to the charity.
Yeah.
That's simple,
So
the charity will-
there was some confusion on how, on their end, how they wanted to structure the entity that was going to donate. It's my understanding at this point, they did set up the nonprofit properly.
Okay.
And so there are a number of reasons on their end they would want to do.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They would want to do it that way. I'm
Yeah.
not going to go into that here, and I can't give them that guidance, obviously. But they did get the proper guidance, in my opinion, at this point, and they did set up the nonprofit group. And I think they're ready to go legally. So we can have the agreement signed fairly quickly after the legislation is passed. And at least as far as legislation goes, and the agreement goes, and on my end, we'll be set.
Okay, so the first thing we need is a
We would ask that
motion
you
for
amend
amendment.
this legislation to the new group, which is again Wildcat Youth 32 Athletics.
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, and then we need a motion for suspension.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
That has been passed on second read with an amendment and under suspension. Okay, item I2, ordinance number 036-23, an ordinance amending a section of the City of Napoleon, Ohio codified ordinances, specifically Part 1, Chapter 143, Section 143.06, a City of Napoleon, Ohio fire and rescue fee schedule, and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second?
Thank you. Andy?
Yes, Council President, as I explained a couple of weeks ago, this is basically to cover the cost of both education, training facilities, and use of apparatus specifically as it applies to hazmat response. Otherwise, there are no changes to this legislation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
All right, that one will be moving on to third read. Okay, item I3 is resolution number 037-23, a resolution approving an amendment to current spousal coverage in the health insurance premiums, amending resolution number 033-20, and declaring an emergency.
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay, Andy?
Yes, this, as you recall, last meeting, we amended the legislation to remove any reference to the HSA. As I decided not to offer that to the employees based on the limited responses received on our survey. But what this does include is the spousal coverage change from $100 to $50 per month. The spouse is offered insurance through another employer, and it also retains the wellness incentive. Other than that, there are no changes.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, item J, third readings of ordinances and resolutions, we have none. Item K, good of the city. K1, discussion or action, approval of plans and specifications for the Third Street sanitary sewer improvements. Okay,
I
and-
will defer to my public works director.
all right, welcome Chad.
Yes, this year, we're requesting approval of the plan specifications to replace the sanitary sewer located on Third Street. This would be from, Meekison, where we are just finishing up, and would go to just the north edge of the Lutheran home. We would would also be replacing all of these services along that line and then resurfacing Third Street while we're there. The estimate for the project, $680,000. We do have a $325,000 grant attached to this project. This was our 2023 issue 2 project. Just with timing and the delay of the Meekison project due to a secondary funding source, we didn't do it earlier in the year. It's our understanding there are many contractors out there currently looking for work through the winter. So we believe we would get our best bids if we advertise at this time. The completion date is end of May, which would help us to get this completed before the Oakwood project would start. But we're just requesting approval of the plans and specifications so we can get it out advertising later this week.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
When would they be starting this exactly?
If we advertise this week, we would open bids near the end of the month. It would take a couple months to get contracts and materials. I don't see anyone starting until after the first of the year. And then they would still have 4 to 5 months to get it completed. Asphalt plants open up usually mid-April, so they would have enough time to get it paved. It won't be one of those projects where they can just start it, disappear, come back months later. They're gonna have to get in.
That's what I was
get on
getting
it.
at, that's what I was getting at, okay.
But we do know several contractors in the area have large gaps in their 2024 work schedule. So if we got it out now, we could fill some of those gaps.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Assuming that sanitary sewer runs right down the middle of the road, right?
Yes, it does for the first half, and then once it gets to the senior center, it moves to the west side of the road in the grass.
We'll maintain traffic and,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. And portions of that sewer are some of the old original brick arch, so it is a large source of inflow and infiltration into our system.
Well, and then the one that'd be cut off the worst would be the one that's the sanitary sewers on the west side and the grass, so we can maintain
Right.
traffic easier.
It'll be much simpler once we get to the intersection of Roar Street, which is where the senior center is located.
Yeah.
From there south, we are in the grass on the west side.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we need a motion for approval.
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, it's been approved. Item K2, discussion and action, Parks and Rec Board recommendation to set trick or treat for October 31st, 2023, from 6 PM to 7:30.
I have
Okay.
nothing further to add to that. Tony, did you want to expound upon the Parks and Rec Committee's, or board's recommendation? It's actually on Halloween, which is a big deal. We don't always hit that.
Kind of our tradition, isn't it, Tony?
Unless you
Pretty
can.
much. Yeah. Right, okay. All right, need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
All right, that has been approved. Item K3, discussion and action, review of rate, fees, and rental costs for the golf course. And just want to refer this to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Correct.
Do you have
yeah.
anything to talk about before then?
This came out of the Parks and Rec Board. We just asked that it be referred to committee.
Okay,
Unless you have anything.
all right. Can you do that, Marissa, please? Thank you. All right, we'll go around the table here, and I'm going to start with Andy today.
Thank you, Council President. As you know, and Kevin knows, we attended the AMP conference this last week for 3 days, well, 2 days. I attended the board meeting on Monday. Some of the interesting things I think that came out of that was during the general session on Wednesday, they talked about resource adequacy and the fact that we're gonna be retiring a lot of these thermal assets, gas and coal-fired plants, and there's nothing to replace them. People just aren't gonna make the investment in something that's dying. And there were three members on this panel, and they were big hitters. We had a chairman from FERC, Mark Christie. We had the CEO and chairman of NERC, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. And we had the CEO of PJM, which is our regional transmission organization. And the thing that really struck me, or my biggest takeaway, was that AMP really has their finger on the pulse of this industry. For the last several months at the board meetings, they've been talking about this resource adequacy issue, and it was just reiterated by these three big heavy hitters, and they were saying exactly what we've been hearing at this meeting. So I think it gave me two feelings. One, a sense of comfort that AMP is really on top of this for us, and number two, it just continued, or it reinforced the fear that I have of what's coming up. And that was expressed best, I thought, by Mark Christie, who was the FERC commissioner. He says we're heading for disaster. And that's exactly what we've been talking about in AMP for months. And I think something can change in the 2024 election, after the 2024 elections. One of the things that they talked about was policy has a cost, and that's absolutely true. And it's, in this case, it could be a very, very large cost for everybody. And that hope is not a strategy. And unfortunately, there's a very large percentage of those in Congress that I believe have hope that things will just work out. Definitely not the way things are going. In addition to that, they talked, I sat in on the three different joint venture meetings that Napoleon is part of, three separate joint ventures. JV6 is the wind turbines over near Bowling Green. If you've driven by there, you know 3 out of the 4 are working. The equipment is no longer manufactured. Parts are very difficult to come by. And those units will be retired in March of 2025, at which time they will start to come down. So late 25, early 26, those wind turbines will go away. We've been socking away our cash to make sure that those are taken care of once they come down, because there's a cost of $1.5 million to decommission those units. They think that by then we'll have 1.6 to 1.9 million saved to be able to do that. So it is certainly something we're planning for. Another one of them is the JV2, and those are the large gas turbines out on Commerce Drive. They are part of a larger joint venture that includes 34 diesel units. Napoleon is a big part of that. The debt service was retired on that in 2018. They have okay performance, 86% operational performance, and they were very limited use this past year. We just didn't need them that often. They're peaking units. There's 10 more years of service life on those, and they will utilize those as long as feasible. They will continue to assess the return on investment of those, and as long as they're economically viable, then they will continue to utilize those. The last one is JV5, which is really an exceptional joint venture that Napoleon has decided long ago to take part in, and that's the Belleville Hydroelectric Plant. Exceptional performance, it's got a great safety record, much better than forecast uptime. And this year, some of that has to do with favorable water levels on the river, and part of that has to do with limited forced outages. The equipment just is running very well. Like I said, exceptional performance. The debt service on that continues to 2029, and the debts, and after that component goes away. That part of the rate goes away, and they guesstimate consistent energy levels delivered right through that time. So we will continue to see the good performance, and the cost to run those is going to be maintained through the 2029 timeframe. There's a decreased rate for 2024, and some of that for this particular joint venture, and some of that has to do with capacity credits, some is transmission credits, and another one, the third component is RECs that we receive from selling from that facility. I think it was in May we received a credit on our bill from from AMP for the Rex from Belleville. And it was, kind of skews the 3-month rolling average, or moving average. So what they've decided, what we voted on and decided to do was rather than throw one big wreck at your bill, they're gonna, go over a 12-month period. So you won't see that big spike or that big drop, to have to manage the 3-month moving average. So that was a decision that we decided upon. Other than that, that's what I had. There was some other interesting stuff that took place on Tuesday, had to do with hydrogen powered units and also some modular nuclear units that they're putting in online. Both of those are carbon free, and yet you still get people that are against them. But it's pretty fascinating technology, and they're really trying to develop these alternate sources of energy to replace the thermal units. But that's a slow process. So hopefully those come up quickly. But again, hope is not a strategy. That's all I have about that. One other thing you saw in the packet is the annual CIC meeting will take place on Thursday, November 2nd from 5 to 7. If you're interested in attending that, let us know, and we will get a seat for you at the table.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Then I'll jump over to Kevin, in case you have anything you want to talk about in the meeting that we went to.
I could just reiterate what Andy said at the conference. It was very interesting to attend. Just goes policy as cost. One of my notes that I took on there is that they need to have how to figure out to get projects built faster. There's a project in Arizona that it took 17 years for all the permits to get in place before they could start building it. But you certainly take notes when Mark Christie stated, and I'm quoting him here, is we are headed to a catastrophic levels of the power grid. So if he's saying that, and in a nutshell, it's basically coal and diesel are bad, and there are going to be policies in place that they want you to shut those down sooner rather than later. But then wind, solar, nuclear, even things like that, which most people are against, that have control, is not enough to offset what's being taken away. So in essence, if we can produce, say, 100,000 megawatts, but we're going to retire 20 and put 10 back on, doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Plus, they want us to change all the vehicles to
Electric,
electric vehicles,
right.
so that's going to add
So you're going to be
a lot more.
increasing. Yeah.
We have seen, and that was also part of it, is they're seeing tremendous local growth across the system of usage of electric because of that. So, I do have one other item, since it's my turn. The United Way of Henry County, and they've done this for several years, has given us a donation of $600 for the purpose of Safety City. And I would ask council if you guys would make a motion to accept the donation, as we do with all the other donations. So I would appreciate it if we could have that motion tonight.
Yep.
Motion to accept?
I'll second.
Hey, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. David.
Yep.
Ken.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you know which, I'm not trying to sharpshoot, but do you know which one of our thermal units is the next to be scheduled to be retired and when?
Prairie State.
Yeah,
Prairie State is,
That's been under siege since they
Well,
turned the
it's-
power on.
it's in Illinois.
Right.
So that kind of explains it right there. But,
Right.
yeah, that will be retired mid-2030s.
Yeah.
And again, we're planning for that. Because we have debt service on that through 2042, I believe, currently.
Yeah, the tough part about that one is that was a state policy that was enacted by the governor. And of course, their governing body, that all coal plants in the state of Illinois will be retired by a certain date, like 2035.
Right.
The unfortunate part about that is Prairie State has debt service that goes out to like 2042. So,
And we're in the process of restructuring that debt service.
Okay.
Our rates will be affected slightly by that. It's not huge, but our rates will be affected by that because we're going to do this with the debt service and have it spread out, so. but we want to make sure we're not paying debt on something we're not using anymore.
Yeah, it took us a long time to get the hydro plants built with all the 17 years,
Right.
whatever it was, to get the one in Arizona, whatever that plant was. You know, just to get the ones built, you know, along the Ohio River took a lot of time. And like you said, it's 2023, 2024, and they retire that in 11 years. It's a lot of juice we're not going to have anymore.
There's the gentleman that spoke about the nuclear power plant in Utah. I mean, basically, he said that you're gonna have everybody throw everything at you to try to stop you.
Right.
And so it just holds up the project,
Yeah.
so.
And on top of the solar, they talked about using natural gas, which is another thing that they're pushing us to do. But they stopped all of the pipelines to transfer the natural gas
Right.
to be used.
Yeah.
And they-
One other, may I, Mr. President? One other question on that?
Mhm.
For either one of you guys, and I don't know how long those wind turbines from BG have been there. I mean, they've been there as long as I can remember.
It will be
but
20 years,
What's the average lifespan of those wind turbines in general?
about
Is it
20 years.
20 years?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
curious.
They're not going to reuse the concrete and put up a new tower.
Not
Yeah.
not to the best of my knowledge, no, those would just come down.
But I would just,
Completely gone.
I know, you know, going to Van Wert at night, it's like you're in a red light district.
Right.
And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
more than 4 of them.
Yeah.
If I could add to that, part of the issue with these wind turbines in BG is economy of scale, where there's only 4 of them there. Plus, as the equipment is 20 years old, the newer equipment is better equipped and the parts are easier to get. So when they talk like down in Van Wert, there's a company that maintains those. And they would rather go to an area and have to maintain 100 of them because it's more work for them, as opposed to try to just come here and maintain 4 or 3 at this point. So that's also, and that just gets more expensive to maintain them. Economy of scales with that.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Because if you ever put those in again, it's gonna be more than 4.
I do know down at Van Wert, they had to stagger when the lights would go off because they were all going off on at the same time, and it was disruptive.
When my mom still lived down there, you just go out in the backyard and it was just,
Bam,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anything else, Andy or Kevin?
No. It was an interesting
Yeah.
conference. I had not been to one, obviously, for a dozen years, and I was much more invested in this one, and for good reason. And I just found it all very interesting, and every single session we went to, I thought was, like I got something from it.
I agree. There's a lot of information they packed in to 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Billy.
Nothing for me.
All right. Bob.
I have nothing.
Hey, Molly.
Nothing, thanks.
Okay, Dan.
nothing.
Mr. Mayor.
Need to reappoint Tony Greaser to the Henry Metropolitan Housing Authority. You can do that.
We have a motion for that, please.
I'll motion.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Yes,
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Yes. And I have a group of students coming here on the morning of October the 11th to use this room. Is that okay? Or is there any other kind of? Is there training that day? Do we know?
I don't believe so. I mean, I think that's okay. Well, we have scheduled a budget meeting, we can make that work elsewhere.
Okay.
Be fine.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right. Just go back a couple weeks, we had the Fall Festival, was at the fairgrounds. And I went, and there's a lot more cars and a lot more people than I think the last few years. And talked to Roger Hefflinger, and he was very thankful for what the city does to help with that. I did swing by Pickers, and that was another one that, there's a lot of people there again. So it's bringing a lot of people into to our businesses in town. And last thing, enjoyed the city golf and chili last Thursday. Was great. So appreciate everyone that did work on that. All right, Ken.
I have nothing.
Okay, Dr. Dave?
I have nothing.
All right. Okay, item M, approve payment of bills. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the payment of bills shall stand approved. Hearing none, they stand approved. Give a motion for adjournment.
A motion.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.